Let me introduce our speaker for today, Runzhou, Procurement Manager. He drives our Unilever plastic sustainability agenda. He will share his career journey with Unilever and, more importantly, introduce Unilever's supply chain organization. Before I hand over to Runzhou, quick reminder or guidelines as to how we're going to run this session. Just ensure you're on mute. You could ask your question on the Zoom chat. You can raise your hand and we're going to pick those questions at the end of the session. Or you could also use our pigeonhole link to put in your questions, and we're going to get that at the end of this session. So Runzhou is going to answer them at the end. Do watch out for every question. You do stand a chance to win some Unilever goodies. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Runzhou. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Sunil. And a warm welcome again to all of you. And I'm very excited to have this sharing session with you. 6 years ago, I was in your position, graduating from university and looking forward for a new chapter of my life. And of course, with a little bit of anxiety and also uncertainty, given the unknowns in front of me. So I hope this session will help you to know a little bit more about my company, Unilever, and also know a little bit more about the function I'm working for, which is supply chain. Next slide, please. I'll introduce a bit more about myself. So are we showing next slide? Yes. So a little bit about myself. So I graduated from NTU back in 2014, and my major was electrical electronic engineering. And for those who are there, you know, there's one degree, many opportunities is our slogan. And after that, I also did a certificate in certified in production and inventory management. And I decided to then study a master's in supply chain in the US, and I graduated in 2019. And a little bit more on the personal front, I love cooking and also love eating durian. I love road trips, and I'm a father of 4 cats. So now let me move on to the next slide, which is my Unilever journey. So I started with Unilever back in 2013 as an intern. So I joined the Unilever Leadership Intern Program in procurement, which is a 3-month summer internship. And then after 1 year, after graduation, I was lucky to be selected as part of the Unilever Future Leadership Program, which is our prestigious management training program globally. And I was again lucky to have 6 different assignments across 4 different functions. And out of the 4 functions, 3 of them are in supply chain, 1 in procurement, 2 in manufacturing, 1 in planning, and 1 more in sales. And I was posted in 4 different countries. In Singapore, and the first picture you can see here is in a manufacturing site in Indonesia, Sumatra, and 1 more in Philippines head office, and 1 more in China. And then after graduation and after 3 years, my first job was as a procurement manager in Thailand, managing the supply chain procurements. And 2 years in Thailand, after that, I came back to Singapore in my current role, managing plastic sustainability. So to summarize my journey so far with Unilever, I would just use 1 sentence, which is doing worthwhile things with worthwhile people. So it's not only the work or the assignments that makes me to learn and feeling the fulfillment, but it's also the people and the colleagues from a diverse culture that ultimately you make as your friends that makes the difference. At Unilever, we believe we are a purpose company, and we encourage our employees to find their own purpose as well. So here is my purpose I discovered so far. And I would like to live with gratitude and work with passion, and also want to bring positive energy and changes around me. So that's all and enough about myself. I'll now move on into introducing you about the supply chain as a function. So Unilever is well known as a brand company. We're known by our brands, being it Dove, Lifebuoy, Clear, or Magnum. But on the other hand, how we are doing as a supply chain company. So Gartner is the well-known consulting company who ranks all the companies around the globe from a supply chain point of view. And here is their 2020 supply chain top 25 and masters. And Unilever, we are not number one, we are not the number 25, but I'm very proud that on the right-hand side, you can see we are one of the masters, and there are only 5 companies across the globe have this status. And if you do a little bit more research to be in this masters league, we will have to score very top in almost all the areas in supply chain for a consecutive of 10 years. And we are proud to be the 2nd year in this league. So we are not only a good brand company, but also from a supply chain point of view, we are also doing pretty well. Now I'm going to move on to introduce you a bit more about what does Unilever's supply chain entails and how a career would look like in Unilever's supply chain. So very simple and very logical. We split or we categorize our supply chain in these 4 different functional areas, namely plan, which is the planning function, and then source, which is the procurement function, and make, which is the manufacturing function or the manufacturing factories and plants, and lastly, deliver. So when talk about supply chain, I think a common misunderstanding is it's equivalent to logistics. As you can see here, it's actually including logistics, but much broader than only logistic areas and functions. So I'll have a deep dive into each of these pillars to share with you a bit more about what if you find a career in each of these functions. Next slide, please. So to start off with planning. To summarize planning in my view is really an art of balancing supply and demand. And the tool we have is of course inventory for any product company. So broadly here you see there are 2 different teams. One is the demand planning team or the demand planners. The second one is the supply planning team or supply planners. So what does each of these teams do? Demand planners are the ones who looks into our historical sales and looks into our future demands after they see the market insights. They work with the sales and marketing team, and what they will give to the team is really a forecast of how much we are gonna sell. And then the supply planning team will use this as one of the key inputs, then to make a judgment call on how much inventory we are going to keep and how much production we are going to do by when with our factories, so that we maximize and optimize two goals. On one hand, we will want to manage to maintain the customer and consumers' demand so that there's no out of stock. We can get our famous shampoo and ice cream. And on the other hand, we also want to just keep just enough inventories, because inventory means working capital or means money, which we don't want to keep too much. So in this sense, what are the career keywords if you work as a supply or demand planner? In my view, it's really about analytics. This team would really need to do a lot of insights and data so that you know the numbers of the historical data and also what's happening in the markets, and translate these numbers into actionable insights. And then ultimately that lead to the right decision for the whole supply chain to function. And as you can see, I put this picture, which means planning is in essence the brain of the whole supply chain and the whole company. So that's about planning. Now moving on to make, which is manufacturing. Can we go to make? I think, yeah. So yeah, this is the right slide. So in make, it's really about our factories. And this is where the things are really happening, where you see the products are being produced. Being in 2 of our Unilever manufacturing sites, this is a simple schematics and flow, which I can show you how would a factory look like. So first of all, to start off with, from the left-hand bottom corner is a call-off, where we will first call the raw materials and packaging materials into our factory. And then once they are in, we will prepare those. First of all, of course, we need to ensure it's the right material that came in with the right quality, so quality inspection. And then of course we prepare to have the right dosage before we send into the production line. Then it comes to production, which is where the magic happens. A and B together will make your famous shampoo, your famous ice cream. And then after this step, we will then do another round of quality checks before we put them into our packs. And then we have our packing lines to make them into the bottles and then make them into the cases before we dispatch out. So it's as simple as such, 4 or 5 different functions in any of a typical Unilever factory. And this is where, as I said, a lot of happening going on, and you will really see, products are coming out very quickly. So if you find a career here, what you will see really, I think the keywords will have this following 4. Number 1 is optimize. Remember, we as a factory will need to do whatever the planning team have give us in terms of how much and what to produce by when. So that will be the objective. And to achieve that objective is really about how you optimize the process so that you are most efficient and effective. For example, you want to minimize the material wastage or minimize downtimes, which are all the factory management want to do. And of course, we are in production 4.0 era. Of course, that's where automation will also come in. We want to make all the repetitive and also the rule-based activities go into a machine and free out our colleagues in the factory to do more decision-making and more high-value adding activities, which is to optimize. And of course, the other 2 areas are really very important, and safety is a prerequisite. We want to ensure everyone works in the factory would have a safe environment. And of course, we want to make sure the product have the highest quality possible when the consumers receive them. So this is the factory area. Now moving on after factory is about deliver. Deliver, again, I would summarize into 3 different key pillars. Number 1 is warehouse, where we store the inventories, as I mentioned in the planning page, which we will want to keep some inventories as close to our customers so that whenever they want to order, we can deliver to them so that the consumers like you and me, when we go to, say, NTUC, we can get our products on the shelf. And of course, transport are the ones where they will need to move from our warehouse to the customer's warehouse and shelf. And together with these 2, another important function in Deliver is called customer service, where this team works closely with the customers and our sales team to ensure the customers' orders and requirements are fulfilled on time and in full. So that's the first keywords where I mentioned in below. That is a key here if you find a career. You need to ensure that whatever you do, you keep the customers in your mind, and you want to ensure on time and full delivery. Of course, the other 3, as you can see, is more or less similar as the factory, where you also want to optimize your processes and also automate as much as possible, and also ensure the safety of the workers in the warehouse and also the drivers when they transport the products. Okay, so these are the first 3 pillars. Now moving on to where I'm working in now, which is the source or sourcing function, or we call procurement. And again, procurement is not only about negotiations, but rather it serves a bigger purpose. And here is what we in Unilever as a procurement team does. So we are a procurement team with purpose, and here are our purposes. We want to buy responsibly. We want to buy better for the company, and we also want to grow together with our partners and suppliers. So what is buy responsibly? This is closely linked with our Unilever Sustainable Living Plan for those who are following Unilever. So we want to make sure we source responsibly and make sure that the value chain that we are in, we do the right things, and we're doing well by doing the good things for the environment, for the society, and for the customers we serve. I'll deep dive a bit more because this is a pillar I'm working on, and I'll showcase as from a plastic sustainability point of view on what this pillar means. And buying better is really about buying the right raw material, packaging material, and services at the right quality with the right service levels from the suppliers and the right price. So this is the second pillar of our purpose, and followed by doing these two things responsibly and buying better. We want to create a win-win situation with our suppliers, which is we want to grow together with them. And we are a big company globally, and we enable a lot of suppliers, more than 20,000 suppliers. And imagine how many people are making a living by selling to Unilever. Hence, it's not only a career in procurement that you negotiate, rather you have a bigger responsibility here, not only for sustainability, but also for the people who works with you, for every decision you make. So what are the career keywords here? To me, the most important ones are here. Number one is really about communication, how we can effectively communicate what Unilever would want and require from our partners, and also influencing skills, both internally and externally. And also as a procurement person, you also need to be resourceful, and you need to stay curious about what is happening in the marketplace and what is happening around you, so that we are always updated on the latest market information and updated with the situation. Okay, so that's about procurement in a nutshell. Now let me deep dive a bit more in buy responsibly and use plastic sustainability as example. So this is what I'm doing as a procurement manager. So as Unilever, first of all, we had an announcement last year that we have two ambitious goals for a waste-free world. What we want to achieve by 2025, which is in 4 or 5 years' time, we want to reduce our virgin plastics footprint by half. So we want to reduce half while we grow our companies, and out of which 100,000 tons will come from absolute reduction. And the second area is, in addition to that, we also acknowledge the issue with plastic pollution. So we want to help to collect and process more plastics than we sell in the marketplace. And this is actually in addition to two more goals we had back in 2017, where we want to make sure everything we use in our packaging is reusable and recyclable, also compostable. And also we want to at least have 25% of recycled post-consumer plastics in our packaging. So as a procurement manager, what do I do to enable the achievement of these 4 different pillars? Next slide, please. So these are the 4 things where in my daily life, I will need to drive. Number 1 is less plastics, and then better plastics, then no plastics. And of course, the last pillar is about collect and process more than we sell. So less plastics, what do I mean? All these 4 pillars, I'll just give you a real example, which is in the market that we already launched to showcase what we are doing. So less plastics is really this safe household cleaning product that we use. You only have to buy 1 bottle for the first time, the triggers that you can use to spray the cleansing ingredient to clean your house. But after you use up, what do? You only buy the smaller bottles at the top, which is a concentrate, and then you just mix with water and you can use for the second time. By doing so, as you can see, we will help to use much less plastics for each repeated purchase. And secondly, for better plastics, this is in essence the post-consumer plastics that we are buying, which is really from a recycled plastics. We are making the bottles again and give them a second life. So we are also very proud to say for many of our Dove bottles, in many of the markets, we are already using 100% recycled plastics to serve our customers and consumers. And the third pillar is about no plastics, which is to find innovative and new business models to serve to the consumers. And this is an example in the Philippines, where Sunsilk, our hair shampoo product, have launched a refillery station in the supermarkets, where the customers and consumers, they can just bring back their used bottle or whatever packaging they are comfortable with to refill the products. And in this case, for every 1 more bottle we serve, there is no more plastics being used. And these are the less, better, no. And in addition, we also do collection, as I mentioned. And this is, again, example where in Africa, we work with Mr. Green, which is another company, together to help to collect in the community for whatever has already leaked out as a pollution in the environments. And we want to collect and process more than we sell by 2025 and continue from there. So these are the 4 key things where keep me wake up and get excited every day. And this, I'll leave you here with the introduction of Unilever supply chain and what I'm working on. To end with this, content size, next slide, please. I want to share one last piece, which is really a formula and a career advice, which I received earlier when I was joining Unilever from a senior leader of Unilever. So this is a formula where he teaches me what really drives a performance. And this can be for your work or for whatever we are doing in our personal life. If you want to get things done and delivered, it's really about E, A, and T. Energy multiply into attention and multiply into time. So what is energy? Energy is your physical energy. Do you have the energy to do things? And of course, also your mental energy about your well-being. And only if you are energetic about the things you do, then you move on into attention, where you focus your attentions on without distractions. And with energy and attention, you invest into time, and then things will get delivered. So it's equal for everybody that we all have 24 hours a day, but it is the energy and attention that really makes a difference on how much you can do, compared to a low energy person not interested versus a energized person with full attention. You can see the difference, and that drive a big difference over time. And take one step back, what I want to say on this slide is really, where does energy and attention comes from? This is where I want to leave you with. It's really about the passion. Are you interested? Are you passionate about what you are going to do? And at this stage of your life, looking for a career, I would really encourage you to find and explore what you are passionate about, which is aligned with your purpose. And also, once you started, love what you do. So do what you love what you do, and performance will follow. So I wish you all the best in your endeavors of your career hunting, and I hope to see you as part of Unilever family. Thank you very much. Back to Sunil.
Great. Thanks, Runzhou. An amazing career journey that you shared. Thanks a lot for that one.
Sunil, your voice is still in and out.
Can you hear me now? Is that better? You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Runzhou. I'll speak a little louder so you guys can hear me. Thanks for sharing your career journey, and especially the supply chain organization. That was fantastic. It's time for question and answers, and please feel free to unmute yourself, switch on your camera, and then you could go ahead and ask questions to Runzhou. I don't see on the chat.
Sunil, we lost you again in the last 10 seconds. I think there's an issue with the mic.
Is it any better, Runzhou? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just in and out. Sometimes I can hear, sometimes your voice becomes very low.
Checking if there are any questions on the pigeonhole. I don't see any on the pigeonhole as well. Sorry, my bad. Can you hear me, Runzhou, now?
Yes.
So I do see some questions. Sorry, probably I didn't click into the right window. And let me look at the first one. May I know if there is a strong supply chain and procurement background is needed for a role in UFLP procurement?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll take the first question here. So the answer is not really, because as you saw my background, I'm from an engineering background, studied electrical electronic engineering when I joined Unilever. So I think as a fresh grad, what the company really looks like is your passion and skills in this area, and if really you are the right candidates for these roles. And I hope just now when I was introducing the different functions and areas of supply chain, you can first of all, with the first pick, know how interested you are, which decide your passion. And then it's really about your what you have learned from university that makes you the right candidates, not a direct experience in this case.
Okay. Thanks, Runzhou. I think on a similar lines, there's another question, 3 oats on this. I will still, I think you answered it on the first one, but it'll be good for you to just share this as well. Thanks for sharing, Runzhou. Would an environmental science student passionate in sustainable plastic procurement be suitable for a procurement internship?
Yeah, I think the answer is also a yes. And in this case, you are studying in the field, even it's closer to sustainability and to the plastics agenda we are driving. And of course, from an internship point of view, every year, as I mentioned, we do open this, and what I have gone through is this Unilever leadership internship program. And also there's a second additional opportunity there, which we call Gen X, where you can do slightly longer as an intern as well. So opportunities are there. Welcome to join the team and to have a first internship as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I think this is an interesting one, something to address the reduction in plastic that you're working on, Runzhou. Does Unilever outsource production as well? If a finished product or a work in progress, I guess, is purchased from suppliers, how does Unilever manage your goals? Example, reducing plastic use.
Yeah. So first of all, for the student who come up with this question, congratulations. You already know some of this supply chain, how it works. And what in essence you are asking here is about contract manufacturing. It's more common in the electronics field. Of course, in the consumer goods industry, it's now also getting more and more important and common. So in Unilever, we call this way of supplying as collaborative manufacturing, where it's not only our own factories who produce our products, but also for certain product ranges, we also use the high quality third party, which we qualify to produce certain products for us. And of course, I think to answer your question, when we say collaborative manufacturing, as the buyer, we will first of all need to ensure that third party is working towards the same direction as what we do. So in that sense, what Unilever do is we are still in a driving seat in terms of controlling the quality, controlling the ingredients, and controlling the packaging material. Hence, even be it a third-party manufacturing or be it Unilever manufacturing, we are confident that we are in full control of what we want to sell to our customers and market to our customers and consumers. And in fact, many of our contract manufacturers are staying in the same line, and they even introduce to us the same capability and capacities in terms of recycled plastics or other sustainable alternatives as well. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you. I see some questions on Zoom chat as well. I'll come to that in a minute. I see a few more on the pigeonhole. This one is about technical skills, Runzhou. So the question is basically, may I know if there are any technical skills that is required for one to succeed in this department?
So can you repeat the last part? I wasn't able to capture.
Okay. So the question is about the technical skill. So the question is, do they need technical skills, or what is the technical skill that they need to succeed in procurement?
So
Clear
yeah,
up?
I think this is another interesting question. So I think in general, what the whole supply chain, or more specific in terms of procurement, is really something that we as a person does every day. If you do grocery shopping, you are already involved in all the 4 pillars which I mentioned about, right? You do plan how much or what you are going to buy, and then you go to the supermarkets, you source, you choose what is the best with the best price that you can, you want to pay. And then you come back to your home, you prepare your meals, you prepare whatever you want to do, and then you serve it for yourself. So in essence, what I'm trying to see here with this example is supply chain is no rocket science. It's really about how, is again back to what you have received as a training and how good you are and how interested you are with supply chain. But to mention quite a few things, which I think I already covered a bit in the slides, what is required here? First of all is, as I said, optimize. That means you will need to really be sensitive to numbers and able to draw from numbers to conclusions and insights. So analytical skills is really important. And of course, more importantly in procurement, I mentioned a few more, which is communication, influencing, and also stay curious with what's happening around you. These are the key things which will make you become a good procurement manager in this case. Okay.
Great, thank you. I'll go on to the next question. There's about 4 words on this one. How long is it typically Unilever projects? Is it a fast-paced, dynamic environment?
So can you repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
I'm sorry. I think this is getting a bit. Okay. I hope you can hear me now. How long is it typically Unilever projects? Is it a fast-paced, dynamic environment? Did you hear that? I hope I was loud enough.
Yes, I hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, Renzo. Yes.
So, of course, I think this is a generic question to answer, and the simple answer to that is it depends. However, I think I want to say in a perspective where we call ourselves working in the fast-moving consumer goods industry, and indeed, I think as the question already indicated, it's fast-paced, and the consumer's behavior and the consumer's habits does change, and especially, using this very recent COVID situation, people are moving more to online versus offline channels. Like we are buying more on the, say, NTUC online or Sing online rather than going to the supermarkets. That means we will need to adapt quickly, otherwise we will fall behind. So that's the first point. We are in that industry which requires us to be fast. And then in response to that, of course, Unilever need to structure our teams and our supply chains to be fast enough and responsive enough. Hence, to drive supply chain responsiveness and agility is always one of the key agenda we have. And that's where in 2 out of the 4 pillars I mentioned about optimize. And this is where, we need to really to be fast enough to react to all the changing demands. So again, as a real examples, for example, as you can imagine, the hygiene products portfolio in Unilever would have a much higher demand than normal. Now, what we really need to do is to avoid out of stock, because if you can recall, when back in February, March, you'd go to a supermarkets, many of the hand wash hygiene products is out of stock. But we will need to really work together, break all the boundaries, and to come up with a solution to make sure that we can meet the demand, which, for purpose, which can be double, triple, or even 4 times. So it is fast, and that's where the fun comes in. We need to adapt and take the challenge and react to a constantly evolving and changing market.
Great, thanks, Renzo. I'm going to club questions, next one, in the interest of time, and more or less all those questions are related to procurement as a function, how it feels like working there. So I'm going to club them. So one is one attribute you feel it's important for someone working in procurement. That's one. Maybe you could, what is it like working in procurement department in Singapore? What is it like a typical working day for you, Runzhou? So those three together. Yeah.
So I get the first half, which is what is important to work in a procurement team. What's the second part of the question?
The second part of the question is, what is it like a typical working day in for you in procurement?
Okay.
And yeah, those were the ones, yes.
Okay, yeah. I think for the first part of the question, I have answered partly in my previous answers to the more generic questions. It's really about your communications, your influencing skills, and also curious about what's happening. These are the three most important areas where I would highlight one more time for you to say what it really makes you stand out in the procurement function. Now, what a typical day looks like for me. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question. Reason is very simple. And that's also one thing back 6 years ago, one of the career talks I joined, which a Unilever senior leader told me, that he said that since he joined Unilever, he was in Unilever for more than 20 years, there was no 2 days alike. So I can't believe that when I was hearing that statement. But now 6 years in Unilever, I do say that this is indeed what's happening with me every day. So as a procurement job itself, of course, you know what you need to do. You need to find the suppliers. You need to know what the factories will need, and so that you buy the right material. And after you find the right suppliers, you make sure you get a good deal. And remember, buying better. You get a good deal of what you are buying. And then, of course, you discuss and negotiate with the suppliers so that you have a long-term partnership. So this is, as a function, what we do. But if you ask me every day, what do I do? It's really depending on the priorities or which stage of the cycles are. And then you are on your own and you will decide today, yes, these are my 3 priorities. And these are the 3 things I want to drive. And these are the 3 suppliers I want to talk. Or these are the 3 stakeholders I want to talk, so that I can drive the goals where I want to achieve, which is ultimately the 3 things I mentioned. We want to buy responsibly, we want to buy better, and drive partnerships to grow together with our suppliers. Okay.
Great, thank you. I think there's another couple of them that I could club together. How was procurement affected by COVID-19? That's one. There's another one very similar. Just give me 1 second. So I'll take that question as well.
Yeah. So the question is, how is procurement impacted by or affected by COVID-19? Yeah, Sunil?
Yeah, that's the question. And also how we have adopted to combat the supply chain issues with the COVID-19.
Right. Yeah.
Them together. Yeah.
Okay. So I would summarize in 2 aspects. Of course, because of COVID, there are 2 things that has changed. Number one is there's a shift in the demand of different portfolios. For example, I mentioned just now, as a common sense, you would see a surge in the demands for cleaning products. And the second thing is, because of COVID, the supply chain and also the global supply chain network has been disrupted to a certain and large extent. So from these 2 aspects, these are the 2 things where I would say procurement has been impacted, because we need to make sure we meet the changing demand and shift towards meeting the demands which has increased. While for those which has been reduced, we also need to cope with that. And on the second hand, with the certain level of supply chain interruptions, this is where we also need to make sure that we have a resilience plan in place, so that our factory still gets what raw material or packaging material they will need. So these are the 2 areas where we are impacted. And then now how we cope with all these changes. And there's no magic, and there's no sort of overnight solution that comes to solve this problem. And this is a problem where really it puts our supply chain and procurement under tests. And of course, now almost coming out and hopefully coming out of this COVID crisis, looking back the last 6 months or half a year's time, we think Unilever supply chain has been able, and we did pretty well in coping with these two challenges. On the first front, with the shifting demand, it's really something where we prepared well in advance and well before, rather than being reactive, which is a key that is called resilience. For example, in terms of a raw material, there was a period, if you guys know, that India has stopped all their manufacturing activities for some key non-essential materials, which we use. And then what do we do? So it's really about what we have already pre-qualified from another country that we can quickly activate. So this is a resilience plan where we already have in place. And that's what helps us to a very large extent. And as a resilience plan, we already planned very well, anticipating some disruptions in the future. So first key is really plan and prepare well. And of course, you can't plan for everything. And that's where it comes to the second area, where for those where you have to react and do, that's where, I'm again feeling proud that Unilever, as a big company, as you can imagine, we can quickly come together with cross-functional squads to work together and break the normal rules to really make a fast and effective changes. Very simple example, as some of you may know in procurement, normally, if we are going to make a big purchase with a big money that we need to pay the suppliers, it goes through many layers and levels of approvals. But in this period, our company is able to, disrupt this conventional way of working, which may take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but rather, yes, get it done. Let's, get the right things in place while we are doing in parallel. So this would be the 2 things I would say. One is plan well before, 2 is, react fast with a change in our ways of working that we tackle these problems. Okay.
Great. I think that's all time that we had for today's session. Runzhou, thanks a lot. I know there are a few more questions, so we're going to answer them on IG. You look out for those answers. We have posted something on the chat group here on the Zoom. There is a survey for you to complete. Complete the survey. You can redeem a Ben & Jerry voucher. Over to the team, to you guys. Ellen or...
Thank you, everyone. So if you have time, please stay on for the next session. It will be at 6 o'clock with Ian Lowe, who will share more about analytics. He's a country analytics manager. So go to Easy Virtual Fair and we will see you there. Bye.
Cheers all the best. Thanks.
Thank you, Runzhou.
Thank you, everyone. All the best.